everybody. Welcome. Appreciate everybody joining us here on a Friday. Hope everybody's got great big plans for an exciting weekend. But in the meantime, we'll try to help you up your sales lead generation game. So let's get started. I'm going to turn on my screen here. And okay, yeah, you guys should start seeing that. Now, the point of our meeting today is to help you with your campaign. So, if you got a specific question, you have a campaign underway that you are, having troubles with, trying to take it to the next level, not sure what to do, then let us know. Ask questions in the chat here. We're keeping an eye on that, and we'll stop and address your questions as they come in for sure. Today, what we're going to talk about, well, actually, first, what we talked about last week is calculating the ROI on your campaigns. So how can you estimate what the campaign is going to bring you in dollars so that you can therefore, estimate what it's worth to invest in terms of your time as well as the tools and things that you need to make it happen. So, but today what we're going to jump into is how can you automate your funnel to generate leads, especially for a B2B sales situation, transactions where where a person needs to talk to the customer to close the deal one way or the other. Doesn't have to be B2B necessarily, but where there's a human being to human being transaction going on at the end of the day. Now, a lot of what we're going to talk about doesn't have to be sales related, could be in e-commerce or whatever. But let's get into it. And, again, keep an eye, make sure and find out where the chat is over there. It should be on the right side of the Demio screen here that you're in. And look for the chat, and you can type in your questions there as we go, and we'll be keeping an eye out and try to respond to those as they come in. Okay, first though, a little background on who SalesNexus is. We're the CRM that's built for sales teams. Salespeople love SalesNexus because my background's as a salesperson and a sales leader, and everybody that's involved comes from a sales background. So we just kind of get it, what it's like to be a salesperson and what matters and what doesn't matter. And then we built in the marketing automation to be driven by the sales process. So it's not a separate system that a marketing person runs. It's a system that sits right on top of the CRM that the salespeople are using. And when you finish a call with a customer, new things start happening with that customer automatically. We also have data enrichment and cleansing services available. So if you're trying to build your list, clean up your list, etc., we can help you with that. And all of the setup and customization, configuration of your campaigns, writing your emails, all of that. We've got a tremendous staff that can help with that. And we do all that in-house. We don't farm it out to other consultants or anything like that. So it's simple and affordable. And then finally, we're the only CRM that can promise you that we're not going to spy on you and we're not going to sell your data to other vendors, advertisers, et cetera, et cetera. Also, we're the only one that's got a Better Business Bureau A+ rating. Our customers love us. Our customers stay with us 4 times as long as they stay with the competition. And you can see some reviews here. One of the reasons is our help desk is incredible. You don't have to pay extra for premium support. All of our customers get great support. You ask a question, and in less than 30 minutes, you've got a response. And in less than 4 hours on average, the issue's been resolved, whatever it was. Here's a price comparison. So you're going to save a lot of money with SalesNexus compared to our competitors. And that is because we're bundling all the capabilities into one subscription that's a little less expensive. And also you're just not paying the extra money for all the setup and training and premium support and all that other stuff. So now let's jump into the content here. The most common mistakes that I see people make with their email campaigns in general are just in the creation of the message. If you're talking about yourself and your product and your company, then you're already missing the mark. You really got to learn to talk about the customer and what matters to them, and position yourself and your company and your product as the solution to their problem. But your email is not about solving their problem. It's only about getting their attention, really. So you just want to talk about their problems and their world. We've covered that and how to do that in some of our previous workshops. So later I'll get you the link to the where we're posting all the workshop recordings, so you can go back and reference those when you need to. And then the second most common mistake is failure to automate. If sure, you can go into, a simple email system and do your email campaign on Tuesday, right? Go pull up your list and write your email and send it out. And that's fine. But the problem is we get busy. And so next week it doesn't happen, or it doesn't happen on Tuesday. It happens on Friday. And those little details like that really undermine the overall return of the campaign. And that's why you want to automate it. And of course, we're going to talk about that more today, about really taking the automation to the next level. So we're going to get into, I apologize. I'm going to go in a little bit different order here, but we're going to get into how to set up your landing page and integrate it with your CRM. We're going to get into how to trigger the right campaign at the right time, how to layer campaigns so you're sort of nurturing customers down through the funnel, and how to trigger sales calls. So when's the right time to not just send them emails, but now jump in with a sales call as well. This is how people think about nurturing campaigns normally, right? Something happens on your website, or you get a lead. Maybe it's a trade show. Who knows? One way or the other, they come into your system, and now they start getting your email sequence, right? And it's one sequence, and it's, one size fits all. Well, that's okay. And it's definitely a place to start. It's better than nothing. But especially if you're trying to generate leads for salespeople, it's just not going to cut the mustard, really, unless you've got a really big list. Because as most of you know, your average email is only going to get a 1% to 2% click rate. So unless you've got a really big list, you're just not going to get a lot of people engaging in those emails, and therefore not a lot of good solid sales leads trickle out of that. Most people don't have 50,000 people on their email list, right? So if you've got 3,000 people on your email list, you got to do a little something extra to get those qualified leads out of that list. So that's what we're going to talk about. What a lot of people do, and you guys, I do, we all get these emails now. It's really common. It fills up your inbox, all these cold outreach emails, right? And there's a place for that, and it works, when done right. But it's a little oversimplified, and it's certainly, if it's just a numbers game. Again, if you don't have a really big list, you can't expect much out of it. Just a series of emails, and then in those emails so everybody on your list is getting a request to book a meeting, right? Well, if you just put me on your list and started sending me emails and I've never shown any interest, what are you asking me for a meeting for, right? It's not a great way to brand your company long-term, especially like if you're a manufacturer or something like that, and you have a limited audience of potential customers out there. You got to be branding for the long haul. And, you want to create a relationship with these people where they trust you. They don't see you as just, please start a meeting with me because that's what I want. Let's talk about the customer and what they want, and then be there when they need your solution, right? So what we've talked about in previous workshops is how you can automate things so that the salespeople can pick up the phone and call people when they're clicking on the emails right then and there. And when you do that, that works. It works every time it's tried in a B2B sense, but you have to do it pretty quick. You can't wait 2 days to call the people that clicked on your email campaign. They won't even remember, right? But if you call them that same day, it does work. We've talked about that before. I'm not going to belabor that point. I'll show you a little more later. Essentially, your sales rep comes in the morning. Your email went out, first thing this morning at 8:00, right? And your sales rep comes in and he's having his coffee and it's about 8:30 and he's ready to start making his follow-up calls. And on his to-do list, his task list in the CRM, here's all these people. And you see how it says click notification. So the system is notifying the salesperson proactively. Hey, this guy's literally looking at your email right now. He's on your website. Call him, right? And you know what to talk to him about, right? Build a better lead list. I know the subject of the email he responded to, so I already know what he's interested in, right? So I can even open my conversation with him with something relevant to him, right? That works. Now, long haul, again, unless you've got a massive list that you can just keep churning through, you can't do that forever, right? Not everybody, some people just aren't going to respond to email. That's the bottom line. Some will, some won't. You have to mix it up. To really get the most out of your market, you've got to add some layers and some subtlety to the process. One sequence is not enough. Really, the way I like to think about it is you've got a sequence for your unengaged audience, everybody that's on your list that you just don't have any relationship with, right? They may not even know who you are, right? Might be the attendees from the big trade show last month or whatever, right? Doesn't mean they came to your booth. It just means they were at that trade show and it makes them, a potential customer, right? So you got your unengaged sequence and you got your engaged sequence, meaning the people that have shown some kind of interaction with you. Could be, clicks on your emails. Could be they came to your site and downloaded something or joined a webinar or, some kind of engagement. They're showing a little bit of interest, but they're not committing any time or money or anything like that yet, right? And they're not booking meetings. So that's a different sequence. So now instead of just helpful, useful content to try and get the customer engaged, now you're starting to talk about yourself a little bit, maybe, competitive comparisons or case studies, stories about customers. You're building the credibility of your the credibility of your company in the customer's mind, right? And then the people that start to engage in that campaign, now they go on to a different campaign where now you're starting to ask for meetings and stuff like that because they're showing some strong interest. And especially in a B2B sense, you can assume people spending their time looking at your emails, downloading your guides, watching your videos, whatever, they're not doing it for fun, right? So they're interested. So let's talk about how we do that. You have your top level unengaged sequence going out, and then they click, and then that automatically switches them to a different sequence, right? Again, you could start asking for the meeting right there, but that's a little too quick, right? What you can also do is ask them to give you a little bit of information, but again, in the B2B world, it's a little hard because, if you have a form on your site, like a contact us, right? And we all know this, you get a lot of people using that form to get in touch with you that aren't sales leads, right? They might be customers that have a problem. They're vendors a lot trying to sell you something, you know? So that contact us form is not always the best lead gen source, right? But if you add a couple of additional fields to your form, so you're not just getting their name and email and phone number and a message, you know, maybe you want to add a couple of details that help you understand what type of customer this could be, right? And now you can automate the process based on that data, right? Now your web form is starting to really be capable of driving sales leads and sales action without wasting sales time, right? So it's something like this. You got your unengaged sequence up here. And then maybe those emails are pointing them to that form where they tell you a little bit about themselves. So they fill out the form. And once they've converted on that form, then they come down here and they go on your clicked email sequence, basically, or your conversion sequence. But if they answered those additional questions in your form the right way and they identified themselves as, hey, I'm definitely a potential customer and I'm definitely not a small one, I'm a big one, or whatever, you know, you think is qualified, right? Then they go on a different sequence, right? So the system can automatically, you know, sort of high grade your lead list. So only the best leads are ending up on your salesperson's call list. If you can get to that level, now you can kind of scale that up and supercharge it with lots and lots of, you know, you can do whatever you got to do to get more leads on your list. You know, run ads, buy lists, go to more trade shows, whatever that is. But you can do as much as you want, and your salespeople are going to make sales out of it, I guess is the best way to say it, right? Because the downside of not doing it, of having more of a simplistic, just, hey, we're going to call everybody that clicks on our email or something like that, is your salespeople end up calling a whole bunch of people that aren't really great leads. And that distracts them from working with the customers that, you know, have a budget and are qualified, right? So now, remember, an email drip campaign is going to increase your ROI on whatever you're doing to market and advertise by 400%. So it's worth doing, right? You know, and all of these subtleties that I'm talking about here are just best practices, right? So I don't want to scare anybody. Definitely, you need to start, even if it's that first unengaged campaign and, you know, that's all you can manage right now. Great, get it started. Because then once you get that in hand and it's working, you can add that next layer and you just kind of build towards that. One way or the other, you got to start working in that direction. Let's see, before I go there, let me go to my other page here. And oops. Oh man, I'm sorry guys. I just closed the window that I wanted to open. And so I'm gonna have to log on again. Bear with me a sec. While I'm doing that, anybody have any questions? If you do, just type them in the chat there. I'm getting logged on to 2 different things that I wanted to show you guys. Actually 3, now that I think about it. Okay, catching up here. Thanks for bearing with me. Okay, let me turn on my screen again. All right. You guys are seeing my screen now, I think. Let's see. Brent's asking a question. How often should I send emails in my sequence? Yeah, that's a great question that we get all the time. And it really depends on your business. And it also depends on the type of lead we're talking about, right? So just as some examples, if we're talking about a list of people that attended the big industry trade show last month, right? That you didn't necessarily speak to, they didn't necessarily visit your booth, but they probably walked by it and may have some familiarity with your brand, right? Well, I don't think you want to hit them too hard, maybe once a week. There's definitely you don't want to space it out too much, because then you're not really building any brand awareness. They forget ever seeing you in between emails, right? So once a week, I would say in that case. If you're talking about somebody that just came to your website and filled out some form or something like that, well, then that, depends on the situation. But I mean, I've seen some vendors that I've signed up for, you get multiple emails a day, at least for a little while, right? Like there's a lot of stuff they want to direct you to while you're getting started in their platform. But if it's just, they downloaded your free guide to this or that, they didn't really sign up to your platform or something like that, then, maybe once every 2 or 3 days, a couple times a week for a while. And then if there's just no engagement, then you start spacing it back out maybe once a week, so you're just not. And it's also a function of what kind of content do you have. If you got great content that people love and there's just a lot of engagement, great, keep sending it to them. That's a whole other topic we've talked about in other workshops, about managing the engagement of your list and sort of cleaning your list and maintaining it. I won't get distracted on that today. But let me go here, and I'm just going to show you in our system. And you can do this in other systems. This is just the easiest way for me to give you some examples. You see, I got these 3 different campaigns: lead funnel, unengaged, engaged, and interested. So it's just like we were just talking about. And if I drill into any one of them, you can see the sequence, right? So in this case, you can see it's an email every week for 10 weeks. And you notice here that there's no click notifications turned on. That means, like we talked about earlier, notify the salesperson. Hey, Bob just clicked on this particular email. Call him right now. We're not doing that on this top level campaign. What we do is we say second tier campaign is lead funnel engaged. So what that means is, if I go back there to the engaged one. So if they click on the unengaged emails, then they automatically get switched to this campaign, the engaged campaign, in which we still only have emails, right? And it's once a week still. But we have the click notifications turned on. So now if they click on any of these emails, now a salesperson's getting an alert to call them right away, right? Because that's a pretty strong signal. Now, at this point, they will have clicked 2 of our emails, right? At least one in the first campaign and at least one in this campaign. So in a B2B sense, that's pretty strong. Now, we have our third campaign that is the lead funnel interested, right? But we're not putting everybody on that campaign, because that's, like we talked about before, that's, only when we know it's a qualified lead. It's not too small or out of our market or whatever the other things are in your world that make people not such a great lead, right? Only when they really, check off all the boxes. So what we do, number one, the way that campaign works is it's a bunch of different stuff, right? It's an email and then a call and then a text message and then an email and a call and a text message and then more emails. And then at the very end, what we do is we use a webhook to then send the customer over to our mail house, and they send them a postcard. So now we're going to snail mail if we haven't gotten any responses from all of our outreach via emails and text and calls, right? So that's what we do. You can see that the click notifications are turned on. So the salesperson is going to get reminders to call this person anyway, at least twice. And there'll be text messages coming from the salesperson going to the customer. And if the customer happens to click on any of these emails, which typically are more, hey, let's book an appointment. I noticed you were interested in this, that kind of stuff. Then the salesperson will get an alert to call them then too. But like I mentioned, we don't just put everybody that clicked those first two campaigns on this campaign. What we do is we go over here and we create an automation plan that says if they filled out that form on our site and they answered the right questions the right way, then put them on that campaign, right? Let's see, I'm trying to get that up here. Bear with me a sec. Okay, here we go. So maybe in my world, it's all about the size of their house, right? So just as a simple example. So I got, I can use any of my fields in my CRM as the criteria to trigger the automation. So if their number of bathrooms is greater than 4, then automatically put them on the lead funnel interested sequence, right? So, and now it's totally automated. All I got to do as a salesperson is come in the morning and look at my task list and make the calls, right? That's the good news. If I'm Mary, the salesperson, there I go. There's my call list, right? There's somebody that just clicked on one of my emails, jumping right up in front of me on my call list. And then here's these leads, right? And it tells me this is the first time you're calling versus the second or the third and so on, right? And I just click into those guys and give them a call, or I can call them from right here by clicking and it dials my phone, right? So we're making the salesperson's life really easy. We're giving them only interested people to call. We're not doing a bunch of cold calling. And at a marketing or an admin level, you're not having to sit there every morning and manually move people around. Take the people that clicked yesterday and assign them to the sales rep. You can automate assigning them to the right sales rep. If the customer's in California, give them to the California rep. And if they're in New York, give them to the New York rep. That can all be part of how you set this up. So that's where you want to go. That's the goal. One of the key ingredients is you have to be able to connect your CRM and marketing automation to your website, right? So let's just look at that because, the problem I see a lot of people have is, you got your website and it's already got a form, or maybe you have an ad campaign and you've built, landing pages and other form builder systems and stuff like that. And you don't really want to change that because it's working, but your CRM wants you to build the form in their system, right? And, that's kind of a deal breaker sometimes. So what you can do, at least with Sales Nexus, is you can come in here and go to website integration. And let me make sure we're seeing the right page. Yep. Okay. And here I can choose any field in my CRM to map to my form, right? So I can grab my number of bathrooms and my number of bedrooms fields and put them in to my mapping. I can even if you have a field in your form that's, what's the value of your home, or what do you want to sell your home for, whatever. You can create sales ops out of your form right in the CRM. And then you go here. So these are the fields in the CRM, and now I'm mapping them to fields on my web form. So your existing form in WordPress or whatever you're using, right? So now you get that all set up. I won't bore you with all the details there. And you click save and generate script, and it gives you a little JavaScript. And then I'll show you real quick. You go to, like, I'm in ClickFunnels, is something that we use for some of our landing pages. So you could be using, WordPress or whatever, and you just add a little custom JavaScript element to your form, and open it. And this is an example of the little script that you're going to copy out of Sales Nexus. You paste it in here and save it, and you're good to go. Now, when they fill out that form, the information goes straight into the CRM and triggers the right follow-up campaign, right? Okay. Let me pause there. Anybody have any questions on what we've covered so far? I'm going to put in the chat a link to where we have the previous workshops recorded, so you guys can go back and reference that. I've mentioned that a couple of times. Much more in-depth discussion of some of the topics I just kind of skimmed over here today. Okay, now the other thing I want to show you guys is, in order to do this, you got to have a good list, right? If you just got email addresses, all this stuff about having a salesperson call them and all that, what are you going to do, right? Don't have their phone number. Or if you don't have reliable phone numbers, or if you're not sure, sometimes you really need to know what company they work for, because they might already be a customer, right? There's a lot of reasons that your list can really undermine this process. So one of the things you want to do is, find a way to update and enrich your list. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to show you how we do that in Sales Nexus, but there's, other ways to do it. I'm going to pull up my list that, maybe it's all the people that have signed up on my Contact Us form, where all we're asking for is their first name and their email address, right? So that's all I got. I can't really do much with this list except for send them emails. So I go here and I hit the up button, and that's going to pull in additional information about all of these contacts that are found in our contact database. Let's see. I think I clicked off of that too quick. Let me go back to that again. You can do that for a whole list of people all at once, or you can just go into one customer at a time, and maybe your sales rep, he got a click notification to call Benjamin here, and he realizes, ooh, I don't have the phone number. So you hit the little up button, and I picked the wrong one, but if it's found in our contact database, it'll pull in the phone number and company and title. Here we go. So wait for that to update. And there we go. Now we know Campbell's last name. We know his title, what independent school district he works for. We got his phone number. And we got his social links. Let me show you that. So as a salesperson, I can jump on his LinkedIn and send him a connection request. learn a little bit about what he cares about. I got his mobile number too. See that? So that's a way to take your list and update it, get it ready for sales action, right? Or if you just don't have a list, or your list isn't very big, like we talked about earlier, let me just pull up one to show you real quickly. Okay, so we can search for and build new lists, right? So here what I've done is I've just searched for people in the real estate business with a title that includes broker. And you can see, and they're also the, sort of C-level in their organization. So for my business, I want to sell to real estate brokers. I'm not a real estate agent. I want to sell to these real estate brokers. Well, here's my list, right? And I got their emails, I got their phone numbers. You can see the little cell phone symbol indicates I got their mobile number. So you can take that list and put it in the system and put them on your campaigns. So that's another option for you. Okay, let me go back to the slides. Bear with me a sec because I messed up and logged out of everything earlier. Oh, shoot. Hang tight, guys. I'm almost there. Just getting lost in my docs. Okay, here we go. All right, let me get back to where we were. Okay, so one last thing, that's really the underpinning of this whole strategy. You got to have good emails to send in the first place, right? You can't just send them the same email over and over again. That's not going to work. As we talked about in previous episodes of the workshop, developing the content, that helpful content for the customer, right? In that unengaged layer, that first layer. That's the key. If you can get that right and you can create as many of those as you can so it'll go on and on forever and ever, then everything else gets easy. If you're in a business where you are in real estate or construction or something like that, where you're doing stuff in the physical world, well, then you're lucky because you kind of have this unending stream of content, meaning when you're out there doing jobs, you just take pictures of it. Hey, here's an office we just built out or designed. Here's a backyard we just designed, that kind of thing. That's great. And it works really well. I've seen it work a lot of times. If you're not in that type of business, then you got to get a little more creative. But what I highly recommend against is going off and hiring a marketing firm to spend thousands of dollars in a couple of months developing a bunch of beautiful content and emails and stuff for you. It's just a distraction and a waste of time and money because you really don't know what's going to resonate with your audience. You may think you do, but you don't know until you try it, right? So with email, you can try it, measure what happened, see what worked, what didn't work, and then make adjustments very, very quickly. So in my mind, the name of the game is let's find some free resources. Like if I'm in the finance world, I might want to just go to the Federal Reserve website and just look at their news. They're publishing all kinds of news announcements all the time, so I'm going to pick one or two a week and create a little email about that news. I don't even have to create a blog post or anything. My email can just point to the Federal Reserve website. But I'll know that they clicked, and therefore my whole multi-layered campaign still works for me, right? So that's an easy way, use public domain stuff. You go to YouTube and look for, industry experts in your market that are recognized talking about something, an important solution to a problem that your customers have that's kind of related to your business. Feature their video in your emails. Again, it doesn't matter that the video is not about you and not on your website. It's if the customer watches it, they're probably a good customer. That's number one. And number two, the fact that the system can tell you that they watched it, right? By virtue of the click. So that's all you need. So that's a simple way to create content easily without it being expensive or time consuming, and getting your process underway so you can start gathering data and fine tuning like we've talked about in some prior workshops. Okay. Anybody have any other questions or anything? Just type them into chat if so. If not, I'll just give you guys a couple of links here. I'll put them in the chat myself. If you want to set up a call and just talk about your specific campaigns, then, click that VIP call link. If you want to set up a demo and really see Sales Nexus, click the second link, the quick start link. Either way, if you book an appointment, you'll get $500 in credits towards downloading lists like we look at a few minutes ago, or a subscription to Sales Nexus, or email design services, or whatever you want to use it towards. Let's see. Another question here. I'm using MailChimp and have my list organized with tags. Can I transfer that to Sales Nexus? Yeah, good question. Yeah, it's super easy. When we were in Sales Nexus, we looked a little bit at how you can use those fields to categorize customers. So your tags in MailChimp will end up being a field or multiple fields in Sales Nexus. So it's a field with a drop down and all the different tag values or something like that. So you can search on it and do a much more dynamic segmentation than you can in something like MailChimp. So it could, not just show me all my people in the construction business, but show me all the people in the construction business that have clicked at least 2 emails and have at least, $5 million in revenue. You can do that kind of segmentation in Sales Nexus. Okay, well, if there's no more questions, we'll wrap it up here. Really appreciate everybody's time. And you're going to get an email later today with the recording of today's session. And you'll also get an email with a link to the blog post where we have all of the prior sessions. So you can go back and reference those. Okay, thanks everybody. Really appreciate your time today. And everybody have a great weekend.